The following Conscious Consumer Network recording of a live broadcast is available to purchase in high definition at ethymarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a CCN pledger. For €10 a month, you can have unlimited access to CCN high definition downloads at ethymarket.com. Ethymarket, the ethical marketplace for conscious consumers.
And welcome to this week's Collective Imagination show. Lisa is having trouble with her internet, so it's going to be just me again. So I do my thing, we'll talk about energy. You guys seem to like that. Last week I'll cover a different topic, a couple of different topics. I abide by what I call the flow. I don't ever mentally pre-plan anything that I speak or say or do. I stay in a heart-based, emotional, and sensational type of consciousness and just say whatever bubbles up. So we'll just see how it goes. For those of you who aren't familiar with my work, I'm an energy master and teacher. I have a website, avatarenergymaster.com or avatarenergymastery.com. Both lead to the same place. It's an online energy school that I've been running since 2010. We've got hundreds of students from all around the world, and I demonstrate and teach the currently most advanced demonstratable abilities in the energetic world, such as telekinesis, weather control, high-level healing, stuff like that. As I explained the last time that we did the show, when it was just me talking about energy, I explained basically what the human consciousness is, what the physical reality is, how and why we're experiencing it, and why we're exclusively experiencing it. And I can go ahead and do another rundown of that. I would encourage you guys, if any of you would like to call in, if the longer you guys keep me engaged, the more I'll discuss and share concerning energy mastery. Independent of having any input, with just me talking, there's plenty that I have to say. But if you want to get more out of me, calling in would be the way, or being active in the chat. So I will be monitoring the chat. So if you have any specific questions that you want answered concerning energy or spirituality of any kind, then feel free to type that into the chat. But if any of you are out there listening and would like to call in, that would be appreciated, so that it's more interactive than just me. So I was awakened to the world of energy in about 2008. Ever since my early 20s, I had extreme spiritual experiences that I pretty much didn't ask for. It was a very interesting ride, and I'll give a brief rundown of that, and then recover what I talked about last week, and then go into a couple of topics that will help everybody on our weekly meditations, help you guys understand better what this reality really is and how to connect to it on a full soul level. But brief explanation of my story. Well, in my mid-20s, and for no apparent reason, I wasn't spiritual at all or religious. Though I did grow up in a Mormon church. I dropped out of that at age 14, and that was, entirely my background. Up until that point, I was just watching a comedy movie when I felt a massive presence come into my head. I didn't know what energy was at the time, so I just felt a huge presence, within my head, and it spoke to me. And it was audible both in my eardrums, and it was also apparent to me that it was a telepathic communication through thought. And it basically asked me to stand up and turn the TV off, and so I did that. And I didn't know who or what was communicating with me, and my grandfather was very dear to me growing up, and he had recently passed on. So that was my first inclination, was to believe it was him. So I asked, "Grandfather, is that you?" And the voice said, "Yes." And not just a yes like answered, but it was accompanied by a flooding feeling of love, love and joy and bliss, a very, very, very powerful presence. And then it communicated to me through feeling that there's something more, that there's somebody else here. My cousin had also recently passed on, and so I asked cousin Jason, "Is that you?" And the same voice said yes, and I got flooded with that tremendously good feeling. Then I communicated to the presence and said, "Well, you're my grandfather and my cousin, so I'm confused." And at that point, I had a full pineal awakening, or this mind center awakening. I didn't understand any of those terms back then, but my inner vision opened up, and I saw a tremendous host, like endless amounts of humanoid forms that were light bodies, not physical, like angelic light forms, and they were all connected together and speaking to me as one singular voice. At that point, I realized not so much who I was talking to, but more of a what, and well, basically God or source or the collective consciousness. There's so many different ways of viewing it depending on your belief system. Mine at the time was religious, so I felt a lot of joy, and I said, "Wow, Father, so this is what it's like on the other side. We're all connected and we share thoughts and feelings." And the voice communicated back and said, "You have finally met me, and I'll give you a space and time where you can ask me any questions." So most of the questions that I asked were related to the Bible because that was all that I knew. But the voice or the presence, the source presence, kept teaching me things, far beyond what's contained in the Bible. It was teaching me about vibration and about the formation of reality. And I dialogued with it for about a couple hours. And it was a very profound experience, completely flipped my lid, out of nowhere, encountering that type of experience. It was very, let's just say I was supercharged and on fire. So I did what I knew how to do at the time. I started reading the Bible, started reading the New Testament about the story of Jesus and such. And over the course of 8 years, I would have on and off communication with this voice, and I also witnessed very extreme miracles through prayer to God in the name of Jesus, sort of like how it's taught in the Bible. I would say the most profound one that shocked me to my core was I obtained a wound in my left eyeball. I accidentally stabbed myself, believe it or not, very deep in the left eyeball to where it was bleeding, not only blood but also like my eye fluid, and it was very obvious to me that I was going to lose my eyesight. I went to the bathroom to have a look, and it was really bad. And that was obvious to me, I cried, like my right eye filled with tears. And so at that point, I was effectively blind, but a certain type of calmness descended over me. And I'm like, well, wait a second, I've talked to God. So surely I can just pray and have this fixed. And so I got on my knees and prayed the best way that I knew how. Basically said, "Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, let my eye be healed." A tremendous presence came into me. My whole body vibrated like mad. And then I get up from my knees and I look in the mirror, and the blood and the eye fluid that had leaked out of the left eye was completely gone. There was no wound in the left eye. The tears in my right eye were also gone. But from the center of my forehead, like right at the third eye location, a thin stream of blood was pouring down. And so I wiped that off, and there was no wound on my forehead. So obviously, I was shocked to the core. It was both a joyous experience and, in a way, like humbling and frightening. Like this is crazy. A open flesh wound, a physical flesh wound, instantly healed through prayer. What comes next after something like that? And that this went on for about 8 years. I would just occasionally get telepathic communication, and I would pray for myself or for others, and great miracles would be worked occasionally. I kept wondering, when is an angel going to show up and explain this stuff to me? When am I going to get my life's mission? So on and so forth. Well, that, never really happened. Not in that way, anyhow. So like I said, about 8 years had passed, and I tried to put all of it behind me because everybody that I talked to about it simply thought I was crazy. Even the churches, weren't willing to a believe what I experienced, and b, like the things that this presence was teaching me. were different than the Bible. Like it verified for me that reincarnation was real, about the connectivity of oneness, that we're all basically share one giant soul together as a family. And the churches wouldn't, that I went to wouldn't validate that at all. It was outside of their paradigm. So eventually I tried to just let it go and just live my life and let that behind me. So that we approaches around 2008. I'm in my early 30s, and I got a bug in me about 2012 that was approaching, and so I started researching it in my spare time at work, which ran me into David Wilcock's work. I read some of his stuff, which was similar to what I had been taught by this telepathic communications, and I noticed that he kept quoting from a book called The Law of One, which was a channeling done in the late 70s, early 80s. So I said, well, I might as well, read this book if that's where he got most of it from. And I was shocked when I did, because within this book was, basically everything that I'd been taught about vibration, about the true nature of reality, about magnetism, about harmonics. And not only that, but as I would read certain truths within this law of one material, I would get flooded with that bliss and joy and massive vibration, which I came to realize was a confirmation of when I'm, encountering something that's true. Um, at one point, I'd read in there that there really is no physical matter, that everything is waveform and vibration, but that our consciousness creates physical matter by interpreting the vibration in a certain way. And when I read that, I really understood it. Like, you can read something and understand it at one level, or it can go all the way into your core. Well, that's what happened to me. And when it did, the presence, the voice of God came back into me and said, "Good, now go outside and get away from people." At that point, I was experiencing the strongest energy or vibration that I'd ever felt. And so I listened and went out back behind my workplace. And the instant that I stopped walking, the entire world around me began vibrating, shimmering in a waveform, very similar to the way heat looks like coming off a blacktop in summer, except that it was everywhere and it was multicolored, like morphogenic rainbow light. And I just had a deep inner knowing when this happened that I know this place, I've been here before. And not only that, but I know what to do. And the feeling of what I knew what to do was like opening my chest and stepping out of it. I didn't know what a heart chakra was at the time, but that's what I did. I opened my heart chakra all the way. And when I did that, my body began to do the same exact thing that the world around me was doing. I began to become pure energy, no longer physical. And I remember looking at my arms, left arm, right arm, and just shocked that I didn't have arms anymore. They were like morphing in and out of physical form. I looked through my chest and my hips and my legs, and I could see right through to the ground. My physical form was basically dematerializing. And at that point, I went into some fear and exclaimed to myself, well, what if I can't rematerialize? And the moment I had that thought, I was slammed back into physicality. Like, that's how these things operate when you're getting greater downloads of information and experience. If you're comfortable with it, they tend to continue. And if you go into a state of fear, then that presence backs off because it knows you're not ready for that yet. Um, so for about a year, I really regretted that I didn't go all the way with that. And I kept looking for the gateway to find that state of consciousness again, and, on my own without having the source, actually give me the experience. And that finally happened about the middle of 2009. And I was basically just vegging out, looking at an index card, holding it in my hand when the morphogenic light appeared again. So I could clearly see that the card I was holding was morphogenic rainbow light. There was also an aura of that light coming off of the card. I could also perceive that my hand was made of the same substance. Not only that, but I could see that my hand was a denser light than the card which I was holding. I could clearly see that I was forming the card that I was holding, and there's like a series, a density to the energy that goes outward from within. And from there, I've been able to open up my clairvoyance and perceive the world of energy at will. So I began playing with it and coming up with exercises to enhance my ability to perceive it, play with it, to see how it all works. I did that for about a year every day, just playing and making notes and coming to an understanding of how it all works when a magical thing happened. So, for the longest time, I was perceiving that I'm in a world of energy, that I'm an energy being and I'm in a huge, vast world of energy. Well, things turned inside out. I was meditating on my bed, just enjoying being in the energy when a different part of my being like walked into me. If you're familiar with the term walk in, like an older part of myself came in and spoke through my mouth. It was me. I'm not saying it wasn't me, but we all have different layers of our being. And this layer of my being said, I am not the physical body, I am the light that flows out of it. And the moment I finished speaking, all of the energy in the room collapsed into me, just like a dying star, and then exploded back outwards. So, whereas before I was seeing energy that I wasn't a part of, since that day, my perception was permanently changed to where I was in what I call source level consciousness, perceiving that everything that I experience, everything that I see, all of the energy is actually coming out of me. So you could say that was when I merged consciousness with the source. And I was all of the energy that I perceived. So my consciousness actually went out with the energy. From there, that was a huge game changer. That's when I began to perceive that I could influence things with this energy. The first thing I noticed was when I showed another person this, that I was able to put my presence out of my body and into their body and actually move them around, like through their nerve fiber system. I could make the same type of motions that would move my body and it would cause their body to move. From there, it wasn't too big of a gap to bridge to realize I could do that with the air, I could do that with water, with light, really small light, physical objects, could change the weather, could basically influence anything past the skin of my body. So from there, I traveled for a little while, teaching and healing people, and eventually ran into my partner who I started Avatar with, Francesca, and we formalized everything that I'd learned, all of my teachings, into a series of video lessons and offered the material to the general public. And here I am now. So if any of you guys want to check that out, once again, the website is avatarenergymaster.com or avatarenergymastery.com. We have a whole series of demonstrations, healing services, and a course that I offer, which has a 7-day free trial. So I encourage you to check that out. And that's pretty much sums up my story. There's a lot more that I could say, but it would take up the whole show, so not much point in that. So a brief recap on what I went over a couple shows ago. What the physical reality is the five senses. The physical reality that we are in, what we call physical reality, is a fixed preset range of our consciousness interpreting vibration: sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. These all take place in a fixed range. And that range is accessible to us through the neuron structure in the brain and the nerve fiber structure in the body. So, as you guys know, the sense of sight is in the rainbow spectrum. If a vibration is within that spectrum, our brain interprets that as something that we see. The sense of hearing is like 20 to 20,000 hertz. If our brain senses a vibration in that level, we say, oh, that's something we can hear. Well, sense of touch has a range of vibration, and same thing with smell and taste. So we're basically, well, for lack of a better word, we're imprisoned within our five senses. Um, this is a very dense level of reality, meaning it's a very, very high level of compression of energy. It's like a training tool. It's like a gym. We are like in Planet Fitness, and exercising our consciousness to have a greater level of self realism. So it's all about presence, guys. It's all about how much presence your consciousness can hold and know it as being a part of itself. Currently, when you start an incarnation cycle on Earth, we don't have that much presence. Like we have what you could call an eternal spirit. So when you're out of your body, when you're in a lighter form or a lesser form, and yes, lighter does mean lesser because E equals mc squared. Therefore, when you're in density, you are in a tremendous amount of energy, more than our consciousness can currently handle, which is why we haven't transcended this level of reality yet. So we don't have ownership of this physical body, not like the way we do our spirit body. When you're out of your body and you're in your spiritual form, you feel every atom and every molecule as being an intricate part of yourself. You have ownership over that body. So if you want to levitate, you just think up and you go up. If you want to shapeshift into an eagle, you thought form yourself into that. Your spirit body obeys perfectly your mental instructions because you are every atom and molecule in that spirit body. And yes, there are atoms and molecules in the spirit worlds. Everything works the same way it does here on Earth. It's just lighter levels of energy. So by having our spirit form overlap with the physical body, we have enough presence, enough energy to move our bodies robotically through the nerve fiber system. We can, through vibration and magnetism, we can generate enough energy to fire an electrical signal through our nervous system to cause flexation within the muscles. And we can also fire enough energy through our brain to program through the neurons memories. So that's where we're at right now, is where we've got enough presence to robotically control our physical forms, and we are working. At least one day in one life, you achieve enough presence or get guided in the right direction to start the right energy practices to where you can begin to bring more presence into the physical body, enough to where your consciousness, if you think in terms of presence, like how much area you can encompass. Well, we can currently encompass tiny little strings of presence through our body, through the electrical circuitry of the nerves. When you do enough energy exercises, your presence begins to swell past the nerve fibers to where you begin to have a conscious presence within your atoms and molecules. In other words, you can feel your bones, you can feel your blood, you can feel your tissue, and not just places where you have a nerve fiber. Very quickly after that, your presence begins to swell past the physical body to where you gain an electromagnetic presence in the air around you, in the ground beneath you, and in basically everything all around. And that's where the big magic opens up. That's where you can begin to truly influence the physical level reality. And from there, you're on the track to gaining ownership of the physical body, which is something our species, human species, will one day do. It might be in the near future, it might be way down the road, but that's where we're headed. One day, humanity will have enough presence to have ownership of the physical body, and at that point, Earth will no longer be a physical reality. It'll be a light reality. It'll be a spirit reality. The only difference between a light body or a light realm or a spirit body or spirit realm, whichever terminology you use, is whether or not consciousness has mastered that level of energy. If your consciousness has mastered a level of energy, it's no longer physical. So I'm saying there's no difference between a physical body and a light body except the compression of energy involved. I've travel out of body frequently. I've had thousands of out of body experiences. I go to many worlds all around our universe, and there are many where I'm in an embodiment, the same embodiment as the other people in this world. To them, it's physical. So if they cut themselves, they're going to bleed. They're going to need a band-aid. If they break their arm, it's going to take them months to heal, so on and so forth. I'm in the same body they are, but to me, it's a spirit body. It's an energy body. So basically, I'm ascended in their world, and they're not. So physical is relative. There's no difference between a physical body and a light body, except if consciousness has mastered that level of energy. Um, You're welcome, Maggie. Just dialoguing from the chat. She gave me a thanks. It's definitely my privilege and honor to share with you guys. We have a question from Mark Hosa. Do you see people in this sphere tending to incarnate repeatedly at this level of density intentionally, as in other than the story that we are entrapped here? Well, not really. Like, we made a decision at one point to bring ourselves into a greater level of compression. Once that happens, you fall asleep because it's a denser level of energy than our consciousness could currently handle. So once you begin an incarnation cycle, you forget everything of who and what you are, your purpose, all of that, because this is a greater level of compression than we can hold. So nobody reincarnates intentionally unless they've already mastered this level of reality and are just projecting into it, in terms to maybe help out. And truthfully, from everything I've experienced, I'm really not sure any of that is going on. From everything I've experienced, Mark, humanity is the highest level consciousness in the entire physical universe. We're like the anchor point, we're like the seed, or the source of everything else. So, even though there's tons and tons of worlds where the beings are ascended, once again, ascension is relative. In these ascended worlds, they don't have as much mass as we do. They're ascended because they're in a lighter level of energy. Everywhere that I've been projecting my presence, I have more mass than everybody else. So I'm more ascended than they are. And this has also been the experience of nearly every other energy master, or actually I'll just say every energy master, ones that truly understand. Everywhere a human goes, if we have conscious presence on a world, we're like gods by comparison to the others. So what I believe from all of my experience is that we're the center point of the entire thing. Like Earth is the seed for all realities that are involved with space and time. Um, Mark says in the chat, even with the Draco reptilians and the like. I mean, we're all reptilians. I did a writing on Facebook that explains to this how tremendous the human consciousness is. We are one level away from source here in humanity. So source is like an omnipresent, omnipotent intelligence and energy that we are all a part of. So you can view it like layers of an onion. And as you get deeper into the onion, you get closer to source. So imagine the deepest, most inner layer of the onion, and that's source. All right. One layer out from that onion is humanity. Okay, so each one of us, we're only one little layer away from source consciousness. So you could, if you want to say it this way, God created the entire physical universe through humanity. So it all started here and went outward. Now you got to understand that there's two ways of looking at this. You can look at it from the source level, or you can look at it from the outer levels looking in, which is how people in the new age and spiritual communities tend to do it. So from that level, they view it as we're these ancient beings and that we've been doing all of these cycles and getting in and getting closer to source. But that's, to me, from the way I choose to view it, that's backwards thinking, because the source projected all of space and all of time in an instant. So from the perspective I choose to look at it, none of us even existed before. The source projected outward, made us, and through us made everything else, and it's relatively new. I mimic the source, or mimic God in lighter areas of activity. So I do make my own worlds that aren't quite as dense as Earth, and I can tell you that it takes me about a half of a second to make one. I throw out a ball of energy and place my mind inside of it, and in about a half of a second, the chaotic energy arranges itself into a structure of space and time. Now, within that half of a second of my time, the beings within that world experience millions of years of time. they experience incarnation and everything. So from their perspective, they're millions of years old. They've been incarnating over and over, accumulating all this wisdom. From my perspective, they were just formed in a half of a second. So that's how it works on a lighter scale. So what we're experiencing here is the same thing, from a greater scale. So in a very, 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 very short time, from source's perspective, all of us were formed, and that's why, it's incredible. And but I encourage more people to look at it from the source perspective, because that's where you're going to find your greatest enlightenment, where you're going to find your greatest achievement, and finally, achieve your destiny. To get back to, what you're saying about the reptilians, everything was made, through humanity outward. All of these, so-called extraterrestrials are on further out layers of the onion. They're further away from source. They're composed of less material. They're um, they're lighter than us. They don't have as much mass. And once again, E equals mc squared. So yes, it seems like they're more awake, or more evolved, or capable of more outstanding feats. That's just because they're in a lighter level of energy, that our consciousness has already mastered. There's nothing an extraterrestrial species of consciousness can do that a human can't do if they just wake up. And in fact, we can do so much more, because we're composed of greater mass. It's just like the story of Superman. He comes from a planet of greater gravity, and once he gets on Earth, he can do damn near anything because he comes from a place of greater gravity. But back to the whole reptilian thing, all is one. You guys have heard that. We're all one. Everything is one. Each human, because of where we come from in the onion layer, we all have an aspect on every single one of the heavenly spheres, from Draconis to Arcturian, Pleiadian, you name it. Every single one of you guys, by the very nature of who and what you are, every single star that you see, you have an aspect in that series of cycles. So every single human on the planet has a reptilian self, has an Arcturian self, has a Pleiadian self, so on and so forth. I know that sounds astounding, but as you really open up these layers and have massive amounts of out of body experiences and remember to look in the mirror, you'll see that every single one of us has an extraterrestrial aspect of every single kind. All is one. We're one giant soul family. From these different perspectives, we have different types of intelligence and different ideas of what to do about ourselves. There's not a human alive who can't say that they don't have a side to themselves that likes to control things. Well, you could say that's your reptilian self. We also have our humble, go with the flow side. You could say that's your Pleiadian self or whatever. But we look backwards in on ourselves from that level, and we wonder what to do to help us wake up and to bring our greater self into a higher state of consciousness. And this is where we get the so-called manipulations on humanity from the so-called extraterrestrials. This is us deciding what to do with us from a different perspective. Um, let's see. Maggie asks, "Is humanity on Earth the only place in the universe where the density experiment is happening?" This Earth that we're on is the densest from all that I've seen. Now, there's tons and tons and tons and tons of parallel Earths. So there's Earths that are almost as real as this one, or composed of almost as much material uh, to them. And you guys all have an aspect on these parallel Earths. They're not quite as dense as this one, but yes, they are very dense. When I project consciousness into those worlds, nobody can levitate. Everybody's completely physical. They drive cars, they work jobs, so on and so forth. Because of the amount of energy mastery I've done, I can levitate and pull off some pretty extreme feats, but barely. I can like barely get off the ground and stuff. So I wouldn't say that Earth is the only place where density experiment is happening, but it is the densest. It's the greatest compression point of the entire thing, which is why Earth is so important. Yes, it really is, as below, so above, as Maggie says in the chat. The common saying is as above, so below. I mean, yeah, you could look at it that way, but everything starts on Earth and echoes outwards. Source energy, like the onions layers that I explained, it's an outward, infinitely pouring, radiative light. So, a below, above. I mean, it'd be more accurate to say as within, so without. But yes, it starts on Earth and echoes outwards. As we change here and in the now, the entire universal star structure system changes too, because they're our children. We are them as well. Like it's all is truly one. It's one giant soul experiencing itself as many different parts. It gets a little complicated because even though Earth, like our human self, is the greatest in the totem pole in terms of soul mass, energy, power, and potential, we're the most asleep. So we like have the least amount of so-called wisdom. Our other embodiments in these lighter areas of activity, they're awake, they're more conscious, they're more aware of what they are. So from that level, looking back, it almost seems like we're the children, but energetically and speaking in terms of soul mass, we are definitely the parents. um, let's see. Mark in the chat says, even though the other races seem to know more about who we are and they are, but you see, actually, they marvel at us. Yeah, I mean that's per what I just said. That's exactly how it works. And all time and space are at the same place and time, right? Yep. It's a difference. It's the consciousness interpreting variance and vibration. Nothing more, nothing less. As I explain in every radio show in the oneness meditations that we do, space and time is a mental construct. It's a way our consciousness interprets variance and vibration. So there's a certain bandwidth of energy, like a range of frequencies that we dedicate to interpreting space. So, in other words, a range of vibration we have dedicated to interpreting things as objects, as air, water, sunshine, so on and so forth. Well, there's also a bandwidth of frequencies that are devoted to interpreting things as movement through time. So yeah, that's how that works. Yeah, we like our snoozing, Maggie, and it's we also want to wake up too. It's scary. There's we are still not ascended because we are not ready. Period. There's nothing holding us back. This is all. This entire play is the source consciousness from deep within, guiding us through a series of experiences, experiencing opposition, experiencing triumph, and everything in its right order and place. This consciousness is far supreme to ours, and it knows how to nurture us and raise us and get us to the point where we're ready to truly create our own reality. And more than that, but actually able to hold this level of energy. Um, when your veil gets removed, when you fully tap into the amount of energy that's here in the physical reality, it is shocking to the consciousness. Like in just a stick, like a piece of twig, if you truly connect your consciousness to the summary of energy in that little piece of wood, you would be shocked. If you felt how much energy is in your bones and your blood, like when you first feel it, it's like it almost makes you sick and it freaks you out. It's so much energy, more energy than we can currently be comfortable within. So we're being guided and in steps to slowly remove the veil a bit more and more until we're actually ready. Uh, Maggie asks, how do you define ascended? Okay, well, there's many different ways you can view that. The common way of interpreting ascended is if your consciousness has woken back up to your light body and travels independent of the physical body in the lighter areas of activity. I don't call that ascended, though. I call that waking up. So once your light body is activated and you're traveling out of the body and your spirit time, your dream time, whatever you want to call it, becomes conscious, then you have woken up. You know that you're an energy being. You know that you exist in many realities simultaneously. That's what I call waking up. Now, Ascended means that in your current embodiment you have mastered that level of energy. That so if an earth based consciousness like myself or you were to say they are ascended in my definitions, that means that they have ownership of that body, which means that if they wanted to, they could shapeshift into an eagle, walk through a wall, um, manifest physical matter, like you name it, like all limitations within that sphere of reality gone. That's what I define as ascended. If there's any more questions, I'll be glad to answer them, or we could move on, and I could talk about a little bit about empathy. Was one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and the skin of the body, what it really is. And I wanted to give you guys a meditation that I'd like you to work on during the next week. It's very profound meditation, and the understanding of it is going to lead you to so many things. So you tell me what you want to do. Okay, well, just continue on and talk a little bit about empathy and the skin of the body, and then I'll give you guys that meditation exercise to do for the rest of the week. And just depending on how the flow goes, may or may not do a group meditation this week. Um, okay, if you guys really, okay, yeah, we're not actually going to do the meditation because it's a solar meditation. I'm going to teach you guys how to fully merge consciousness with the sun. Um, we're sharing. Okay, yeah, no problem. Okay. Empathy and sympathy. Um, these are two very important things, and neither one is superior to the other. Um, sympathy is being close in vibration to something else, like being able to have your vibration be similar. Um, Mark says sun and central galaxy sun related. I know this is going to sound shocking, but the sun is the central sun. There's only one sun, and that's the one that shines in our sky. Once you come to be more comfortable with understanding that reality comes from the inside out, the first thing you end up seeing is that there's really only one sun, and that's the one that's shining. There really is only one planet, and that's the one that we're standing on. These are the seeds for everything else. So the further away something is from you in space, the further away it is from you in time. So when we look at the stars, we're seeing the future when we look through a telescope. So what we're seeing is future suns. Like as we see through the telescope, some of them are bigger and brighter than our sun. Well, that's their destiny. That's where they're headed. But currently, they're just tiny little specks of information, intelligence, of light. Not only that, but what you got to realize is it comes from the inside out. So not only is our sun the only real sun for now, but it's not even as real as that wonderful mechanism in the center of your chest called the heart. What you guys are going to learn through the solar meditation that I teach you is that you are the source of the sun. It's all an externalization of what comes from within, both the ground we stand on and the sun that shines on us. It all comes from within. So the sun that we see and the earth that we see is the first emanation or the first echo of that great source, that's within each one of us. And the whole rest of the universal structure is variant patterns or variations on that. And the more variant they are from Earth, the further away, that they appear. Because it's variance and vibration through which space is interpreted by. Um, so back to sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is when you're vibrating close enough to another vibration to be able to partially feel what it feels like. Sympathy is very important. Empathy is when your vibration is a complete match to something else, and it's in empathy that pure oneness is obtained. But that does not make empathy superior, because if we were all in perfect empathy, there would only be one being. We would all be feeling, thinking, expressing the same exact thing at the same exact time, because we would all be on the exact same place. So it's said before by others that empathy is love. Empathy is not love. Empathy, well, I'm not going to say that it's not love, but uh, it's not love as we understand it. To be in empathy with something is to be something. So if I go into complete empathy with the sun, I am the sun. If I go into complete empathy with a tree, I am the tree. So it's really not possible to love that tree or that other person, or anything else, because there is no other. There's just you and what you're in empathy with. So empathy is very important for establishing connections, for remembering to our consciousness that we are all one, that it all comes from one central source. But ultimately, sympathy is where it's at. That's where love can be truly expressed, because in sympathy there is the possibility for others, because we can have our vibrations similar enough to where we feel each other as one, but we are not each other. So, like in these oneness meditations that we do in the show, we're doing mostly sympathy and a little bit of empathy. Our vibrations are becoming close enough to where we can become aware of each other, and that's where love for others can be expressed. Because if we were in pure empathy, all of us during these meditations, there would just be one being thinking, feeling the same exact thing. But because we're in sympathy, like you remember from the past meditations, like when we do group hugs and things like that, we each like squeeze on a slightly different vibration so you can actually feel the hug. Like if we were all just the same thing, then it would just be one thing, just compressing. So sympathy is it's great because it gives us the ability to experience the other as being another, instead of just being one, or just being self. Um, so yeah, I hope that made sense to everybody. I want to talk a little bit about the skin of the body, and then I'm going to give you guys that solar meditation, and then I'll take some more questions, and if there are any, and then just end the show from there. Um, so, skin of the body. I want you to start viewing the skin of the body as this. The skin of the body is an artificial barrier set up as consciousness to give ourself a sense of distinction between what's within and what's without. But ultimately, it's a complete illusion, because there is no without, it's all within. But the skin of the body is quite a miracle. I mean, without this artificial barrier separating what's within and what's without, it would not be possible to be in a world. We would not be able to be in earth and walking around without the skin of the body, because the only thing we would be able to do is be the entire earth. You know what I mean? So with the skin of the body, we have the ability to be in sympathy with what's external from us and perceive ourselves as being a being within a world. Without the skin suit, the only option would be to be the entire thing. So it's quite a miracle. And I'm not suggesting that we get rid of it by any means, but trust me, it's so ingrained into our consciousness that when you start the reverse thinking, by getting rid of the concept of the skin of the body, it's just going to help you connect to everything. It's not going to completely dissolve. You're not just going to lose yourself and all of a sudden become all of Earth, or anything like that. Well, you might for brief moments, but source will snap you back into who you are. So nothing to fear there. But Yeah, the skin of the body, once again, is an artificial barrier that we set up as consciousness to give ourselves a sense of distinction between what's within and what's without. So just get more and more comfortable with dropping that skin barrier. And remember this key understanding: feelings are the universal language of communication that all consciousness understands, from the most minute particle to the most complex molecular system. Everything in the universe understands feelings. Feelings are the only language. It's how we all communicate at all times. We put words on top of feelings because our consciousness is currently disconnected. But before you say anything, like if you get an urge to speak to somebody about a topic, you feel something in very compressed energy format. You feel a feeling, and within that feeling is an entire sentence or an entire paragraph. But before you speak the words out of your mouth, you first felt a feeling, and within that feeling is contained the summary of the entire communication. So basically, all the words that we say are like wah 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 wah, just like Charlie Brown. If we were in total connection, the words wouldn't be necessary except as maybe a cute or a beautiful embellishment, like adding extra instruments to a symphony just for beauty's sake, but not for the sake of the communication. Now, by feelings, I mean emotions and vibrational sensations. So, those are all communications. So, how the air right now, you guys can feel the air against your skin. Like if you move your arms, move your hand, move your head back and forth, you can feel the air touching the skin of your body. If you place your left hand or your right hand on a tree, or let's just say your tabletop, wherever your computer's setting, you guys can all try this right now. Place your right hand on the table and rest it comfortably, and understand that feelings are the universal language of communication. So, how that table feels against the skin of your hand is not just a private thing. That's not just you having a private experience. You're actually communicating with the table. And the communication is how that table feels against the skin of your hand. That's the gateway, that's the fusion, and that's the actual communication. So if you take the summary of your consciousness right now and you put all of it into how that table feels against the skin of your hand, examine it, move your hand back and forth like real subtly. Don't physically move your hand, but just wiggle it tiny bits and take full note of how that table feels against the skin of your hand. Begin to compress all of your consciousness into it while making these tiny motions, and you're going to start to expand past the skin of your hand, knowing that you're communicating with the table. How that table feels against the skin of your hand is a gateway for your consciousness to go out of your body and into the table, straight up through the feelings. So just put the summary of your consciousness into how that table feels against the skin of your hand. Start to make tiny little motions, wiggling it back and forth, up and down. And I guarantee you, you're going to feel your consciousness swell past the skin of your hand. And you're going to feel like a morphing or a swimming, like it's almost going to feel like the table is liquid. And that's your consciousness exiting your hand and beginning to embody the molecular structure of the table. Some of you will have vast success with this, and you'll actually feel the atoms and molecules like morphing, changing temperature within the table. Some of you will have less success. Either way, it's okay, because what I just shared there is just a preparation for the meditation I want you guys to do for the rest of this week. I mean, once you discover this, you're going to do it all the time. And then from there, we'll resume the group meditations next week, and you guys are going to be blown away, because once you obtain success with the solar meditation, the group meditations that we do are going to be far more profound. Okay, so the meditation that I want everybody to do, and you're going to want to do it too. I mean, it's profound. So pick a sunny day. I guarantee that every one of you guys will have a sunny day this week. I'll help you manifest it. pick a sunny day, sometime around noon. You want the sun to be high in the sky. If that's not an option, don't worry about it. It's not mandatory. You could do this with a setting sun or whatever, but a noonday sun is optimal. And I want you to either lay down on the ground or sit back in a chair. Um, if you're able to take your shirt off, that's good. It's not necessary though if you're in a place where that's not appropriate or whatever. But what you want to do is either lay on the ground or sit back and allow that sun to shine on your face and on your chest. And remember what I said, that feelings are the universal language of communication. So, how that sun feels against the skin of your body is not a private thing. That's actually you communicating with the sun. So, you want to have your eyes closed. And the reason for that I'll go into more in just a little bit. But a partial reason for it is when your eyes are closed, like we only have so much attention, so much focus, so much presence that we can distribute in various things. When your eyes are open, your presence is distributed into everything that you see, whether you know it or not. So just by closing your eyes, that can dedicate so much more of your presence to compress into the feeling. So with your eyes closed, I want you to note how that sun feels against the skin of your body, the warmth of it, the brilliance of it, the feeling, just straight up how the sunshine feels against the skin of your body. And know for a fact that you are now communicating with the sun. That's not a private thing. And not only are you communicating with the sun, but that's an open channel. The communication itself is the oneness, is the sharing. So how that sun feels against the skin of your body is an open gateway for your soul to go out of your body and into the sun, and for the sun to go out of itself and into your body. So, and it's an intelligence, okay? The sun is a vast intelligence, and as I said before, it's a part of yourself. It's a projected part of yourself with a higher perspective. So uh, I don't want you to completely internalize the sun, and I don't want you to completely externalize it, because it's both true. It's both a separate intelligence and wisdom from yourself, and a connected. You are the sun, yet the sun is yourself from another perspective. So it pays to have that knowledge so that you don't forget, so that you don't get uh, caught up and start, like humans have done in the past, or worshiping the sun or something. It's an extension of ourself with a different perspective than we have. So, in other words, you can communicate with it. So, because it is you and it's not you at the same time. So, once again, eyes are closed, sunshine is shining on your face and your chest. You put the summary of your consciousness into how that sun feels against the skin of your body. And then remember what I told you, that the skin of the body is an artificial barrier that gives the consciousness a sense of distinction between what's within and what's without. So as you put the summary of your consciousness into the warmth of the sunlight, drop the skin barrier, and don't assume that you can't feel the sun all the way within yourself. As you do this, that skin barrier is going to drop, and that warmth, that heat that you feel outside of your chest is going to blast through your entire body. Your innards, your lungs, your heart, every single part of your internal body is going to feel that bliss, that radiance, that same feeling that your outer skin felt. If any of you want help with the meditation, before you go into it, just go into your heart and just say, "Hey, Michael, will you help me with this?" The answer is always yes. And it's not my ego that's going to help you. It's the part of me that's already merged with source level consciousness. I've done this for many, many, many people. The answer is always yes. And if you desire my aid, then it's certainly there. But I think you guys are all going to have success with this. But it could enhance your experience if you call on my portion of the one soul that we all share to aid you in this experience. So once once you've put the summary of your feelings into how that sun feels against your body, you drop the skin barrier, you're going to be able to start feeling the sun shining in you and through you. Then I want you to let go. I want you to acknowledge the intelligence within the sun and just communicate with it telepathically through the feelings and give it permission to move. Okay. And this is a big part of the reason for having the eyes closed, because the sun is actually everywhere. It's our physical senses through quantum observation that perceive the sun to be in a fixed location. So once you're in celestial communication with the sun with your eyes closed, I want you to acknowledge it as an independent intelligence and give it permission to move where it wants. And you'll start to feel it concentrating in different areas of your body. It'll start to send you different vibrations and colors. It might telepathically communicate with you, even audibly. It might give you visions. Like it's a very profound experience, and I don't want to color it too much for you because I don't want to give you a predestined experience. I want it to be, spontaneous. But everybody knows, like when you got your eyes closed and you're sunbathing, that you can still see the sun with your eyes closed. It appears like an orangish or reddish glow in your internal vision. Well, once you're hooked into the sun and the celestial communication through the feelings and you give it permission to move, don't be surprised if in your closed eye vision that orb starts moving around, because it will. It'll move in you and through you. It'll heal you. It'll upgrade your intelligence. It'll do so many things for you. Um, that's yeah. I mean that's the summary of it, and then let it go on. For a bit of time. Um, it's very profound. And the more you get comfortable with this, like this is a vast energy technique that I've shared with you guys, and it's something that normally would, or at least in old school systems of study, would take a student years and years and years to like get to this level. But we're not there anymore. This isn't the old school. This is the new school. And quite frankly, Earth is at a crux point time in its evolution, and we all need to be in the new school, the fast school. It's got humanity needs an awakening because we are destroying our world, which basically means we're killing ourselves because we are the world that we experience. So what sources communicated to me is every human in the very near future must know and experience that they are everything that they're walking around in, so that we can reverence it, so that we can protect it, so that we can harmonize with it and truly take it to the next level. Finally live for the reason that we're supposed to be living, which is to enjoy it. So yeah, I hope you guys all, I don't have to hope, you guys are all going to have success with that. And just ask me to merge consciousness with you in the heart. And if you want to play around, like if you do obtain this celestial union for the sun without my help, just for kick's sake, when you feel the sun going through you, just say, "Hey, Michael, are you there in the sun?" And just watch how the sun changes, and you'll experience the part of me that is the sun. And then you can say, "Okay, let me just experience the sun as itself." I'm in there because I've merged consciousness with it, and you guys are all in there too. But it's a potential that's held for you, and you're about to make that potential into a kinetic. And once you do, wow, you'll never view the sun the same way. You're going to be in celestial communication with it at all times. You are going to become sunlight. That's what this is all about. You're going to enter and place your consciousness in the electromagnetic vibration of the sun, and the sun will no longer shine on you. It'll shine in you, through you, and out of you. And wow, it's healing. It upgrades your intelligence. It upgrades your energy. It perfects your masculine side of your consciousness. And from there, you've done it with the sun. Why not the moon? Same thing. Different lesson. The moon has something different to teach, something different to share. Same thing with the stars. You guys are every single star that you see. It's an externalization of what's within. You can do the same thing that I taught you with the sun, with the stars. You can do the same thing that I taught you with a tree, with the ground beneath you, with the chair that you sit in, with the person standing next to you, wow. I mean, the options are like endless. If you're in love with somebody, and who doesn't enjoy a sexual experience with somebody that you're in love with? Well, imagine how that experience could be heightened if you can actually go out of your body and into hers, if she can go out of hers and into yours, and you can truly share. I mean, like wow. A hug with somebody that you care about becomes way more meaningful. We can finally break past the skin suit of our bodies, the physical separation, the mental barriers that we've placed, and experience true oneness. And next week, when we get back on, you guys are going to have a way more profound experience with the oneness meditations that we do. So if there's any more questions, I'll go ahead and take them. And if not, I'll go ahead and close the show. I'll give it about 30 seconds, and re-invite everybody to check out my website, check out my work at avatarenergymaster.com or avatarenergymastery.com. I do make a living teaching energy, and this show is not all about me advertising my course. I do this show because I enjoy it and because I want to change this world and make it a better place. But I'll readily admit that I enjoy having students and I enjoy having income. And I think if you check out my site, you'll see that it's well earned. The prices are incredibly reasonable, and there's 7-day free trial. So worst case scenario, come on in, do 7 days, and then leave the course. That's fine. In those 7 days, you're going to learn so much. So guys, I appreciate you all, and I appreciate getting to be a part of the collective imagination. And every time we do a soul sharing, that's very sacred to me. And you guys feel good. When you merge consciousness with people, when you merge essence with people, when you get really good at this, not everybody feels good. If people haven't done any work on themselves, if they're in a very negative spin on themselves, it just, nature always feels good. Animals always feel good to merge with. The sun always feels good. But people, we're just we've departed from our nature so much. But once you understand how it all works, it's easy to get yourself feeling good. So thanks, Mark, and thanks, Grant and Maggie and Deborah. I appreciate you guys participating. So love you guys all very much, and let me know. Post your results on this meditation on Lisa's page, and I encourage more of you guys to possibly call in next week. So yes, it can, Mark. Merging people can be interesting, but yeah, you guys feel good. We got a good group here, and what we're putting out is echoing into the whole. So keep the faith. We may be small in number, but what we are doing is very potent, very high level stuff. So guys, once again, I love you all and appreciate being soul family with each and every one of you. So everybody have a great rest of the week, and me and Lisa will be with you next Tuesday. All right, bye bye everybody. Love you all. Have a great week.